All right, so you guys ready for a great class? Yes. Woo! I love this crowd. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to teach you how to save money, and we're going to teach you how to make money at the same time. Has anybody ever gone on Amazon and saw a product shot from a name brand product, but it was yellow and dark or something else, and you're going, it just gives you a bad feeling, right? So better product shots sell more product. But also, have you ever hired a photographer like me and paid him thousands of dollars to go next bottle, and you're paying per shot and you're spending a lot of money? So today we're going to show you guys how you can do your own product shots. They can look as good as a pro. We're going to start out down and dirty with a 69-cent setup. You ready? 69 cents. You go to your H-E-B, well, that's in Texas. You go to your Walgreens and you buy a sheet of paper that looks like this. It's 69 cents. You put it up against the wall and you put something down to hold it like that. Now you have what's called escape. The general one everybody uses is the white one there. So for 69 cents, you can make that happen. Now, if you don't have any lights, does everybody pretty much have a sliding glass door out to your patio? So it's like this big light coming in from outside? Okay, I've been told in the Bronx they don't. There's burglar bars that somebody was telling me that. So if you do have that, just set up a coffee table, set your little scape up there, and then put your product right there, and you can shoot it with just the light coming in, from outdoors. If you want to add a little shadow to it, imagine here's my sliding glass doors, here's my coffee table. I simply move around this way so the light's coming this way, I'm shooting this way, and the more I move, the more shadow and highlight. Does that kind of make sense? The more I come this way, the deeper the shadow. So you can get really flat lighting with the light coming behind you. You leave that light there, you scoot over here, and so for 69 cents, you can do a very natural. Your product might be something that is more of a natural thing, a pill bottle or something. For vitamins, you may have a cooking shot. So this is a very simple scape. You can also use it, put fabric behind it, and you can do something that way. Now, do you see the lights up here that I'm using? These lights, for this whole setup here, do you see the top setup here? $22. Is that pretty good? Not including the stand. Yeah, good. And not including the light bulbs. So $22 for that setup. I spent a lot of time on Amazon going down and finding all the good stuff. So if you go to my website, easyphotoclass.com, I've got cards up here. You go to photo tips, and you look for product lighting tips or equipment. And it has links, which are affiliated, but it has links going to all of this equipment. And it took me a while finding the good stuff. So you can get this 4-bulb setup. Come here. That turns on 2 at a time. So you can do 2 or 4. And you see the little hole in the middle? You can directly shove. It's kind of a pressure thing. You directly shove this into the middle here through that little hole, and you go, "Ugh!" Okay? There. And you see how it goes in that way? Now you can use it shooting through the white umbrella. You can use it going this way, whichever you feel better about. Now, with that, the light stands, on my website, I show you guys, here is the El Cheapo light stand, and here's the $20 light stand. Here's the El Cheapo umbrella, here's the $20 umbrella. So you get a little bit of a choice there, but it's still a lot less expensive than spending a couple of grand on me shooting the shots for you. So you can see we have the 4 light bulbs here. I like LED lights. Do you know why? They're white, but you always listen to your mother, right? So I'm calling my mom going, hey, there's these fluorescent lights that I can get, and they are really powerful and really cheap. And she goes, isn't that a hazmat if they break? And I go, maybe. I can Google it. So some people go, it's not that bad, it's not that good, but fluorescent lights will break. If you have pets or children that can knock things over, even if you don't have that, I know guys who shoot for a living and go, yeah, I'm always breaking the fluorescents. Who wants to turn their home into a hazmat? Does that kind of make sense? So I will go with the LED lights. Now, you're probably smarter than I am. I'm thinking, here's a big floodlight. It will be more powerful than the small light bulb. Guess what? It's 60 frickin' watts, it's 60 watts, it's the same. So I'm kind of recommending just going with the regular light bulbs. You're going to spend a little bit more on the LEDs, but you're also not going to have to pay every time you have to replace a broken one. Does it kind of make sense that way? And if you have children, pets, like I say, some people love their pets more than their children. So, keep it out of the carpet, out of the air conditioning system and everything. I will recommend, if you can do it, you can get the 60-watt bulbs for like 3 of them for like 18 bucks. If you get a 100-watt bulb, it's almost twice the power. So if you want more power, you can do 4 100-watt bulbs. It's going to cost you a little bit more. If you get the dimmable ones, they cost more than the non-dimmables. But these, they do get rather hot here. But I've set that setup for 6 hours, turned it on, nothing bad happened. So there is such a thing as a bad batch. They got some bad wiring in the factory in China, and all of a sudden you got a bad one. So I wouldn't leave these things on and go have lunch. Does that make sense? Turn them on, turn them off. Now, if you're combining natural light from the window, but you want to bring in a little bit of light from a certain direction, you can bring this light here, and you can put it on a dimmer. You can get these for about $11. And you see, if you want to balance this light with your window light, you can bring this up or down just that much. Or if you want to, you got a main light, you got a fill light. You can, does that kind of make sense? You can go 400 watts here, 460 watts here, you got the 2-to-1, or you can just kind of play with this here and bring it up and down. So it gives you a little bit more control. Now, so everybody can see how fabulous that background is there. Are you ready for step 2? Now this little guy, once you pop it out of the box, it is heck to get back in. But for the flight, I had to be able to do this. So are you ready? 1, 2, 3, bow! That was sorry, that was like that movie where the thing comes out of the guy's belly. All right, so we can then just pop this open. So the one thing I recommend is if you're through using it and you just want to put it up, just fold it down like this. Does that make sense? And tuck it somewhere, because doing the thing is kind of tough. So this is a pop-up tent that is one of my favorite ones. You can see it's simply just a little tent like that. So we're going to take this up here. We're going to bring it into here. We're going to bring these lights this way. Now you can buy this tent for like $59 or something. If you buy it with 2 little light stands that come on the side, it's $119. So and then you have to have space on the table, and they're kind of limited. I would rather buy this and the light stands and those than have, and those have 4 lights each. Like these are just little 1-lighters. So I'd kind of rather get this by itself and then buy that setup, whether you want to do 2 boxes, you want to do 2 umbrellas, however you want to do it that way. So when we bring this over here, a lot of people like this little guy for working with reflections and things. So if you see, we can put him in there and we can run these lights directly, or, are you ready? Da, da, da. Okay, now I'm on video. We're going to take the front of this, and it has a little bit of Velcro there, show you how this comes apart. We're going to take the front of this off. You can see it's just got the basic inside of there. We're going to take the 4 little, see how they flip apart there? And here's part of where you might crack your fluorescence. So do you see how easily that comes off? So that stores easily. It's got the little front deal. It's really done pretty well. So I can, if I want to, just use this. I kind of got the table here. But I can use this to light from the outside here. Does that kind of make sense? So I can do the same thing with this. I can bring this in this way. And they do make a little cover that goes on this. So you're not getting any reflection from the camera. I don't like that cover that much unless you're doing something small, because then you have a wide-angle lens and things look a little distorted. Does that kind of make sense? So I'd rather be able to shoot further back. I have done a trick that if I'm shooting all white, I'll take a 4x6 reflector and put it behind me here to be able to not have all the things reflecting. Now, do you guys see this tripod here? It's actually pretty freaking cool for $22. So if you're used to hand holding your shots, you got a chance of getting some motion, and plus it's just easier, even if you're doing cell phone. Just put the puppy on here and get that steadiness to it. If you are shooting and the lights aren't quite as strong as you need, you can put this on self-timer, a 2-second timer. Even cell phones have 2-second timer. You pump it, it goes 1001, 1002, click. So any motion that you created is all gone. For cell phones, you can get the little cell phone holder. If you've got a selfie stick, it usually unscrews. Pop that on here, shoot it with your cell phone, and you've got the left and right and everything here. You've got the wind up and wind down. So for $22, you're getting rid of that element of it might be shaky. Is that going to make sense? I also have another one listed, an $80 one, but like I said, I'm trying to give you a couple of choices there. Now, with this little guy here, it comes with backgrounds. It comes with a blue one, a red one, a black one, and I bought a pillowcase. So these, you will see online. I hate them. They don't iron well. So you know what I did? I spritzed them really good. Then I put them on my, okay, so I've got a $120 Italian ironing board. So sue me. I made some money and thought, that'd be fun. So I put the red one on the ironing board, and it went with the steam. And guess what it did? Put red into my ironing board cover, which then I put the pillowcase on, and it came up. And so I had to buy a new ironing board cover. So I'm not recommending that. These little guys here, you can buy something called cloth at Joann Fabrics. Does that kind of make sense? So, kind of make your own. You can get a pillowcase if you want to do that. The other trick is buy some white paper and cut it out and use the white paper inside there. Does that make sense? Or use a colored paper inside there. The fabric, if it sits down in it, you got to get this crinkly fabric there. So I kind of like going with this a little bit. Now, one of my coolest inventions, I had to take that off, didn't I? All right, so we're going to pretend that the hood is still on there, right? All right, so let's pop this. This is one of my neatest things, and it's one of the coolest lights. If you want some really professional looking light on your subject, you're going to do what they call a, come here, a boom arm. Now, I've dealt with boom arms in the past, and most boom arms, they either come with this really heavy weight that if it falls, it is killing a child or a pet, or they come with this little sort of double thing that you have to take it out and it falls apart and the spring goes one way or the other. So what I like to do is take a light stand, take an umbrella holder, and take us what they call a super clamp. It's like $12, $24. Take a light stand, pop it on here. Couldn't do it that fast. All right, so we're going to pop it on here. And what we have is the ability, come here. I talk to inanimate objects. Come on, there we go. All right, so on the umbrella stand, this little handle here is really cool. It twists and lets you go to anywhere you want it to. So basically, we tighten that down. We bring this out. Now, when you bring this out, you don't want to bring it all the way, because then it's kind of dangling. You give it a little bit of shaft inside the other shaft so it's a little sturdier, if that makes sense. So you bring it about to there, and then we're simply going to pop the light back on. Come here. Oh. It gets temperamental with the crowd. All right, so let's bring that puppy down. So do you see how basically we can run this over the subject? Now, generally, we're putting it so we can bring it from back, so it creates this wonderful shadow and this wonderful light-dark thing going on here. So we can bring that on here. Imagine it's got the little casing on it. One of the cool things is, remember how I had the slide like this? I got two lights coming from this way. I bring this one down here. It helps get rid of the shadow, right? So you're helping eliminate that background shadow. And thank you. You don't actually need this if you're just bringing a light stand here and putting it behind. Does that kind of make sense? So you wouldn't need the boom arm as much. If you're doing food photography and you want to be able to say, here it is, sitting on the table or in the kitchen, and you want to bring that boom this way, this is wonderful. Do you see how it's balancing with this? Okay, so here's one of my coolest tricks. I like inventing new things or stuff nobody's ever done. So there's something called sandbags. You can only order them from really expensive, really fully functional camera stores. So I try inventing my own. I'm getting a backpack. I'm putting like Ziploc bags, and I'm buying 50 pounds of sand and I'm going through all this, and I'm going to buy the backpacks, and it didn't seem quite right. So I'm walking through the sporting goods store, and I'm going, ankle weights. So you know what? You can buy sandbags anywhere in the world, at Walmart or anywhere. So you're flying somewhere, you're doing something, you don't want to carry that much with you. Ankle weights, you simply strap them on here and strap it on. Does that make sense? And so you can strap on 5 pounds, 10 pounds, whatever you need to balance the light is kind of a very easy way if this isn't doing what you need. So let's take a look for a moment. Oh, also, if you ever need to travel with lighting equipment, this little puppy here is fantastic. It's 61 inches. Do you know why that's important? 61 inches is the maximum you get before you get charged over on baggage. So it's also got TSA locks, and it's got wheels, and it's got 2 handles. So if you ever have to lighting, stuff like that, if somebody goes, we got to fly out here, this thing is fantastic. All right, so let's take a look, as long as I put these slides together, at what I forgot. Okay, so 69 cents a piece, pretty down and dirty, right? But it works. You can see the cheese grater on there? Look, it's on a blue background. Look, it's on a white. How did I do that? I paid another 69 cents. All right, you see a little bit of reflection there? That's one of the reasons we use the light cube a little bit there. Now, do you see how the one on the left looks a little distorted? One of the biggest mistakes everybody makes with product photography is wide-angle lens right on top of it. Does that make sense? Scoot back, be at least 3 feet away from your subject, please. If not 6 feet, depending on how much you want to expand it or compress it, but try not getting right on top of it. That's why I don't like shooting right through that little thing there, because you're right on top of it there. I'd rather have a little more telephoto. It compresses instead of expands the subject a little. Now, if you have a groom in a black tuxedo and a bride in a white dress, same amount of light on them, right? But his black tuxedo is going to reflect less light, and her white dress is going to reflect more light, right? So your camera has a reflective light meter. And that means if you're shooting a white background with a really, a lot of white showing, it may be giving you a darker, dingier picture because the meter's going, too much light, must make it darker. Does that make sense? So most digital cameras have this little plus-minus symbol in them. It's the exposure compensation setting. So without getting too deep into all the stuff like that, you can do the exposure compensation if you're shooting white background to bring the exposure back a little bit that way. If you're shooting point and shoot, please set your camera for the tulip symbol. SLR, you don't need to, but point and shoot, your minimum focus distance will be 3 feet. Without it, with it, it'll be about 12 inches. So to be able to come in when you're zooming in, working with that, here's the box. I did some of these slides in case the equipment didn't make it. Light table, $120. It's one of my favorites. You can spend $500, $1,500 on them. Like say, this link is on Amazon. I really like that for a light table. You can bring light up underneath it there. I love this, silly putty. Not silly putty, but 3M. Watch do you see how I have something that won't stand up, but I put the putty on a Campbell soup can, stick it to that, it makes that non-stand-upable thing stand up. You can also use it to support reflectors and things. We got the basics there. I like LEDs, just me, rather than fluorescent. See the one on, all 3 of those are the same power. The LEDs going in there, we can do umbrella, we can do box. You can see umbrellas forward, umbrellas backwards. Here we got a combination umbrella and box. Now, do you see how how it works there with the boom arm? We got a little bit of weight back there. We got the boom arm running that way. A little closer up on that. Do you see the difference between the boom shot on the top and the front lit shot on the bottom? So if you want to add just a little bit of gravitas, a little emotion sells. All right, so now we're going to jump into real quick. Once upon a time, I went to Photokina. Every 2 years, they have this big photography deal in Cologne, Germany. So I'm talking to some friends I know at Adobe, and I'm going, the way you guys do bicubic resampling and the image deal just kind of drives me nuts. And so they took me over to the guy who was the engineer, and he goes, my dad has trouble with that too. So about a year later, they came out with a new method. That new method, dear God, the photographer's in the room. How you doing, man? All right, so now I have to look good, and I'm usually the guy, shooting the guys up here. All right, make me look good, yes. All right. Oh, you did. All right. Yeah, it ain't gonna get any better. All right. So let's look at this just for a moment here. If I have an image in Photoshop, let's get out of that, get into Photoshop, and let's go ahead and, so when we have an image, usually we shot it bigger than what we're gonna use, right? Usually our product shots are 200 by 300 pixels, right? And so we know kind of what we want. So a couple of important points. We're gonna go to the cropping tool. Do you see where it says width and height at the top? If I type in 200, and then over here I type in 300, do you see a problem? It says I in. So 200 by 300 inches is a lot bigger than 200 by, does that kind of make sense? So preferences are always set in inches. You can change that, but instead we want to come up and change that to PT. Does that make sense? So write down we want to go PT, which stands for points instead of inches. And then for resolution, we want screen resolution, which is 72 ppi. We need 72 for screen, 144 for inkjet, 300 to 350 for doing a brochure or something on a printing press. So now watch this image. I'm going to crop into it. Also, we can switch this. No, height 300, yep. So watch, I'm going to crop into this. Watch what happens when I let it go. And then I go, okay, yeah, let's crop it. Do you see how it gets a lot smaller on the screen? That's because we made it smaller. So step one is going to the crop tool, putting in points, however, points width, points height, 72 ppi. We crop it, and then we come up to File. We don't do Save As, we do Save for Web and Devices. So when we save for web and devices, one of the cool things is it optimizes for the web. So we want to optimize for the web for JPEG. If we're doing this as a regular shot, we want to optimize. I usually do PNG 24, you can do 24 or 8. You ever have an image that you cut it out and you want to put it on your website, but you don't want the background to show? PNG is what allows an image to go, if you cut it out and it has it layered, PNG is how we save it so it doesn't show the background there. So we're going to, So do you see how we have it there? It says over here it's about 84.74 there at PNG. We're going to run it as a JPEG, and I'm going to say save. I'm going to hit save. Now here's the cool thing. You do not want a 4 megabyte to 20 megabyte image on your website because it's going to load very slow, especially on mobile. One bad image is going to just screw your page. So when you do save for web, it always saves to the same folder until you tell it to go somewhere differently. So you've got your high-res image you're working on, you've cropped it, you've shrank it, you're saving for web, it's going to pop it over here. Here's where you go when you bring it into your media library for your WordPress site. So we're going to save it, and it's going to make it very nice and tiny. See, here's my website images, and all of them are very small. Now, how are we doing on time? 2:39, yay. All right. So has everybody kind of got the basic idea there? Cropping and resizing at the same time. Save for web, optimizes for web. Let's bring this back one step here. One thing I do want to suggest to you guys. Camera settings are good, but creativity is even better. Find the best angle for your subject. Work with the camera height, all those things. I've got some cards up here. If you guys would like to go a step further, I've got a creative workshop you can have for free. For next 2 weeks you can download that. But work on the lighting, but also work on getting your best setup. Scavullo, who does all the fashion shooting, he has light A, light B. He knows exactly. So decide, you want 100 watt here, 60 watt there. What do you want coming back there? Create your own style with that. Now, if you want your image to have a little bit more punch, we're going to create what they call as the brain goes, get back over here. we're going to do an adjustment layer. See this little round black and white cookie? We're going to click on that and choose hue and saturation. Watch the saturation. It gets a little intense. But do you see how bringing it up maybe 10 or 12 points just kind of brightens it? You kind of get the feel there? So you do not want grass that looks like it's nuclear. But you want grass. I've seen people with vacation photos, they add about 10 to 15 points of saturation, and it goes, whoa, a lot more, if you want impact. Does that make sense? Not too much, but you can bring that up a little bit. Saturation, hue is generally the colors that saturation doesn't affect as much. It's just a general, there's a whole lot deeper scientific on that. But you can run hue and saturation there. Another thing, if you want sharper images, before you crop it and take it down, you can go to Filter, Sharpen, Unsharp Mask. I am going to recommend that the only thing you play with is amount. And right now, we are, okay, I'm just showing all the white on there. Imagine it's in there. We're going to pull, depending on if you're doing a diamond ring, you want it sharper. If you're doing a puppy, maybe you don't. Does that kind of make sense? So if I had a guy who had vitamin bottles, and he wanted to be able to read what was on the label. So we sharpened it up just a little bit before we shrank it down, not afterwards, but before, made it a little bit better that way. If you're shooting with a white background, one thing is you can use the, I'm going to recommend the quick selection tool. It's the newer one from the Magic Wand. If we come around the image, do you see how it outlines it? Doesn't outline it quite perfectly. So doing a quick selection mask is a class in itself. But do you guys get the idea how we resize, how we save for web, pop up a little saturation, sharpen a little bit? There's a lot of other wonderful tools in Photoshop, and I have 3 minutes left. All right, so go to the website. I don't have images on all the Amazon links, but do you see how for 22 bucks you can get that? For about 200 bucks, you can get a decent home studio, which isn't too bad, right? You can get the tripod, make sure there's no camera movement. You get the bulbs. Bulbs I might actually buy at your local hardware store or something, because sometimes bulbs get shipped. You know, it's a little bit tougher that way. But each of these things, like say I've researched, I will not guarantee anything, because there's a bad batch theory. I've seen the best manufacturer have a bad batch, and things went bad. If you're going to do the lights, I've left them on for 6 hours to test them. If you're going to do them, use them on, turn them off. You're going to leave the room, turn the lights off. You might even unplug it, you know, just to be sure. You just want to be safe with all that type of stuff. So any questions on product photography, you know, get this, play with it. Yeah?
Do you prefer autofocus or manual?
Generally, autofocus is going to, I used to have better than perfect vision. I stare at a screen for way too many hours, and you don't blink, it isn't good. I do recommend getting little eye drops that go with that. Either one. The trick is if you put it in manual and then you go out shooting something, if you put it in manual and you don't remember to focus it, it looks good on the back of the screen, but then you blow it up and you go, that wasn't. So generally, probably autofocus, you know, with an f-stop of like 5.6 to f8. So you have enough depth of focus, it's going to cover everything. But yeah, either one's going to work. Just make sure that you remember to focus if you're in manual. Not that I've ever done that. Yeah, lens cap off. Yes?
What is your website?
EasyPhotoclass.com. I got some cards up front if you want, it has it on there. I'm old school. EasyPhotoclass.com. Oh, it's also the last slide. Come here. In the there, or Jerry at Easy Photo Class. But like say, the links on these, we're good. All right. Yes?
I have a website where I sell bank checks.
Okay.
We need to take images of the bank checks. And every time we resize them, it doesn't matter what expert we hire, what technique we use, it always, we lose something. The color changes, the fonts don't get picked up right. It's just really
No, no. It'd be nice if there was, but for yours, you might even put it on a scanner.
I have, but that doesn't work either.
Okay. I'm getting the.
What I need is a scanner that has the distance where you can say scale it at a certain
Yeah.
level. Mine, I have to set it at 21% size
Yeah.
to get it to come out right. And when I do, there's like rainbow images, meaning I think it's so far off of what it should be.
Okay, so the rainbow.
Traction going on.
No, the rainbow images is part of the whole thing. But tell me I need to quit. So thank you very much, America. All right. Come on up, we'll talk.